Coming up on the Empowered Woman podcast.
I had taken on a business card. I had a professional photo of my face on it and all that kind of thing. And at the time, that was very unusual. Most people did not do that. One of the few people that did that were people in high levels of media and prostitutes or escorts.
Welcome to the Empowered Woman podcast, the #1 show on personal growth, visibility, and profit for women entrepreneurs. If you're wanting to get empowered to be seen, stand out on social media, stages, TV, and more to make an impact with your voice in business, you're in the right place. I am so glad that you're here. My name is Marta Spurk, and I'm your host, empowerment coach, visibility and marketing expert, and all things motivation extraordinaire. Welcome again, and let's dive into today's episode. Hi, Janine. Thank you so much for joining me today.
It's wonderful. Thanks for inviting me.
I am so excited for us to chat. Oh my goodness, we've known each other for quite a while. Just to give a little context here to my peeps, we met via Gary Barnes. I've had so many amazing people come on the show that I connected with via Gary Barnes and his boot camps and his conferences. I've had Gary Barnes on the show. He's amazing. And you really stand out. You really stand out because you are just, you get right to the point. You tell it like it is. And I like that.
Some people say I'm a little direct.
Yeah. And that is the gift, my friend. That is definitely a strength. So I would love for you to tell us who you are and what you do, and we'll jump right in.
Okay. Well, I'm Janine Bolon, and it's lovely to be a part of this crew. Thank you for being with Marta. She will not steer you wrong. First of all, I've just got to let you know how much I love Marta. I am not pro like Marta. She's a TEDx speaker. I was in radio. So you may have heard this if you were in Southern Missouri in the early 80s. You would have heard KDFN, KOEA-FM, serving the Current River Valley with information and entertainment at the top of every hour. So I've been in radio since 82. And then in 1987, I started this thing. And then by the 90s, I had this thing called Blog Talk Radio, and people didn't know what station to tune into. They couldn't get it through their heads that radio had moved to the internet. So we were called audio bloggers for the longest time. And then it wasn't until about 2006 where the term podcaster came on. So I've been in podcasting in the audio business for years and years. And that is why I know what Marta is when I see her media kit, when I see what she's doing, because I've been in media for so long and written a few books, and I help people with money and stuff like that.
Oh my gosh, you're such a rock star. I love it. And it's such an amazing career, going through all kinds of experiences. I can imagine that you have learned a thing or two about yourself. So I always like to start the episodes having my guests talk a little bit about what they have learned. Like, what are some of your traits, things that have come up as you started putting yourself out there and facing some challenges?
Okay. Well, for starters, I ran my very first business at the age of 10. I sold earthworms to local farmers by the pound. And that was because I required zero income to get started. All you needed was a piece of plywood and a bucket that could hold water and a bite. And I found the bucket, I found the piece of plywood, and I had a bite courtesy of Santa. So I was in good shape to start my very first business. And that was how I got started. The very first year I was in business, I had to pay taxes. I had to pay $33 because I made so much money. And I remember I was ticked off. I was pissed that I had to pay $33 in taxes, and I couldn't even drive yet. I was using my bike. And my parents did that on purpose for me because they wanted to show me that I used roads. So they wanted me to see that it was money that was appropriated by the state to serve the greater good of the community. And they were like, Janine, you go to the library every week and you check out this. I was known as the laundry basket kid because I would have a laundry basket of books that I would carry out because it wouldn't fit in my backpack. Mm-hmm. And so they're like, that is from your taxes. And so I got a good appreciation. That was the very first lesson I learned very early on. So I don't begrudge Uncle Sam for my taxes because they are appropriated for the greater good of the community. Now, do they do this well? Well, we won't go there. Other people can do that, but it keeps me in a positive frame of mind as I'm writing that quarterly check.
Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness. So an entrepreneur from a young age.
Yes.
Like you can't,
you're born with it, right? And it's just not that you can't learn it and you can't do it, but it's just so interesting to go way back and be like, oh, friend, I didn't come up with this yesterday. It's been in my blood. And being super resourceful too.
Yeah, I like to tell people I've run 17 businesses and I've had 2 nonprofits that I've been able to build up and steer and that sort of thing. And some people are like, oh, you must have ADHD or you must be autistic and be on the spectrum. And I'm like, well, if that makes you feel better about yourself, you can label me with whatever you want. But it's just been something that is very much in my nature, which is I love anytime I need money, I go, I wonder what business I can start. Why? Because the business there's a problem in my community. I have a solution, ergo, start a business and help people solve that problem.
Yeah, that's the entrepreneurial mindset. And we were going to talk a little bit about labels or some kind of pushback that you have gotten. And I know because I interviewed a radio personality that's local here to Colorado years ago, and she talked about, I want to say she actually was from Missouri, actually, too. I need to go look and refresh my memory. Maybe it was Minnesota. I don't know. But she talked about being a woman in this industry. So tell me more about, did you have any pushback in the industry or even to this day as an entrepreneur? I would love to hear your experience.
Well, okay. So for starters, when it comes to radio, they teach you to pitch your voice lower and you have to go into lower registers because it's a very male dominated field. And so to have a woman on there in a higher tonation was considered bad. So you learned to drop your voice. That was one of the things. And so we had the radio voice, which is, you can hear it. KDFN, KOEAFM. You can hear I dropped the register. The other thing is because there were so few women in the industry, and I was also in the sciences. I was trained as an analytical biochemist. I actually worked in big pharma for 15 years. I always had a side business. I was like Jay Leno. I always had a side business going. And anyway, and so the fun part of that, though, was I would pass out my business cards. And I always thought my business cards were rather quirky and fun and people would remember them. Mm-hmm. What I did not know is that I had taken on a business card. I had a professional photo of my face on it and all that kind of thing. And at the time, that was very unusual. Most people did not do that. One of the few people that did that were people in high levels of media and prostitutes or escorts. And so I handed my business card to a guy and he goes, oh, I didn't realize you were that kind of business owner. And I batted my eyelashes at him and I went, excuse me, what kind of business owner do you think I am? I had just run through my pitch. It had nothing to do with prostitution. And he goes, you're that kind, because I had used a full color photo and a card. Nowadays, it's no big deal. But please remember, we are talking about right there at 1995, 1996. And I was so dumbstruck to be called a prostitute that was something I didn't have to go to therapy over it, but it did mess up. It did mess up my business transactions with men because I didn't know how do I present myself now? Okay, obviously, somehow I tapped into the oldest profession we women have ever had, which is our bodies. At least we had the rights to our bodies, right? And so that was the first thing, the only property a lot of women had. So please don't think, I understand why prostitution exists, okay? Because I've been at times where I had so little to my name, it was like, do I start going to strip clubs and doing the bar dancing? You always have that when you're going through school and you're living on ramen as a woman. You're like, well, at least I have my body, right? And so I wanted to address that I don't know about a lot of business owners, but I have talked, if I'm only surrounded by women, and I'll say, does anybody other than me had the problem that when you started pricing yourself out, you felt that prostitution DNA kick in to where, oh my God, this must be what whores feel like? Or is that just me? And I'll say that. And it's amazing how many hands go up. So I just wanted to address this, that when you have that feeling or you feel that kind of grit, that grittiness come in, realize you're just tapping into the oldest profession. And it also comes in with the scarcity mindset, because women always default to that. With the scarcity mindset, it's like, if everything goes off the rails, I still have my body. Now, if you have a very strong, like I'm a recovering Catholic. So if you have a very strong Christian upbringing, it's like, God, you figure something out for me, because by golly, that is not happening, right? But it's there. It's there in the subconscious. It's in the framework. And so I just don't want you to feel bad about it because we've all been through it, whether we want to consciously acknowledge it or not.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's such good advice, especially with all your years of experience and going through all these kinds of things. I cannot even imagine where I would put my face if somebody would say that to me. That is insane. Definitely, a good story to tell years later, but not at the moment. I'll tell you that much. Well, let's flip the script here and talk about some empowering moments and amazing things that you've accomplished, because I know with all of the businesses that you have owned, you have several amazing accomplishments to your name. Share some with us.
I have to say the best accomplishment was having all 4 of my children graduate high school and get accepted into colleges when I was told homeschooling was illegal. And I actually had threats of police officers showing up at my door as I homeschooled my children. The only thing that saved me was the fact that I had a graduate degree and I was an analytical biochemist. And I had a buddy girlfriend due to networking who was an attorney who told me, Janine, if they ever show up at your door, you stand there and say, one moment, let me get my attorney. Do not allow them in your house, because they have to be invited in if it's educational. I'm not talking about police officer, but what the police officer would do was stand there. It wouldn't say anything, but the Board of Education would send somebody and say, you are homeschooling your children illegally. We want to come in and investigate your school. So to me, I had such incredible challenges with that. And at the same time, had such a strong passion. By golly, I was going to raise my children and I was going to educate them because I had a master's in education. I had studied our educational system. I saw it was headed for collapse. And by golly, I was going to be the one to raise them up to the 8th grade in my home. So that I feel is my greatest accomplishment. Oh, and by the way, I had to drop out of corporate America to do it. And I was considered a pariah because I was wasting my education. Wow. That is not the way it is now. But back in 1995, it was a much harsher environment. And all I can say is, you go, girls. If you want to do the corporate thing, you go. If you want to do your own business, you go. If you want to be a stay-at-home mom, you do it. Follow it, because you're supposed to walk that path. Yeah.
Right. Oh, damned if you do, damned if you don't, right? Whatever it is that you choose, there's always going to be somebody being like, oh, but that's not what you should be doing. Shame on you. That is amazing. That is a huge accomplishment. And I always give it up to homeschooling moms, because as a mom to triplets, I have tried. The pandemic gave me the opportunity that I did not want. And I have officially decided that is not my gift. So I'm very grateful to my kids' teachers. I'm like, you are a hero in my book. So that is amazing. That is an amazing accomplishment. Now let's talk a little bit about the work that you do with your clients. I would love to hear how exactly you support them. And I'd love to hear some amazing transformation stories from them.
Okay, I guess the several that I have coached personally one-on-one over 328 families out of debt. We got them out of debt. We made them habitual savers by 90 days. In 90 days, I can get you into being a habitual saver. I think my biggest accomplishment, you always like to brag about the one that you thought, oh, they're never going to make it. He made $275,000 a year, but he had $128,000 in credit card debt and was living way beyond his means. He was my worst, quote, worst, in worse shape kind of client. Yeah. He lived in California. He had a $5 million home. So, he had all the accoutrement of wealth, but himself was quite horrifically in debt. So that's when I learned that, lifestyles of the rich and famous and all that kind of stuff that they used to do. Believe it or not, that's a show that helps people know what the next house is that's going up for sale. So they'll showcase it. And we found that out through coaching him. I was like, oh my gosh, you need to sell your house. You need to downsize, blah, blah, blah. And we did that. Anyway, it took him 7 years, but he was able to get out of debt and get into what we call wealth accumulation, which is a habitual saving mindset. Okay, so that was the worst one. Most of the time, people I coach, they only need me for 3 months. At the most, they might need me for 6 months, but I have group coaching programs. And what we do is we get you on the 60-40 principle. And that is a lifestyle that anybody can live on their current income. You do not have to make extra money. This is not Robert Kiyosaki or David Bach or William Danko. This is a different series where we work within your current income, and then we define in what it is that you can do for the 60-40 principle. And so I'm running programs all the time. Once a month, I have a workshop for $99 where you can find out about that.
That's amazing. I will make sure and put that in the show notes as well, so people can get out of debt and become habitual savers. I love that name. That is so fun.
So I've only written 6 books on the topic. So just let me know where you are in your financial journey, and we'll get you set up.
That's amazing. I love it. Well, are you ready for my $1 million question?
I love $1 million questions. Do I get $1 million? No. All right. Just $1 million question. It is. All right. All
right, Janine. What is an empowered woman?
Oh, what is an empowered woman? Oh, that's a fun question. I like those. For me, an empowered woman dances in public. I dance at Walmart. I don't care who's watching. I had a woman, everybody thought she was insane. I knew her for who she was. She was dressed in a bright yellow raincoat, bright yellow galoshes. It was pouring down snow outside, yet she was dressed in all this rain gear. She had to be in her 80s. She looked older than God. Okay. She looked like she had been through the ringer. And we had this cotton candy machine that was in that particular Walmart. And I walked in with my 4 little kids, like little ducks all in a row. And I walk in and she's dancing to the music that the cotton candy machine is making. And I'm like, oh yeah, grandma, let's go. And I'm dancing with them. My children leave me. They leave me. They're like, oh my God, mom's doing it again. To me, a woman dancing in public, no matter what the music is an empowered woman. Why? Because we women have danced our rebellions. You know this from Brazil. When people would take our sons, our husbands, could we revolt? Really? How could we revolt? We would dance in the streets as single women and crying because our partners were not there to dance with us. It is a version of rebellion that's nonviolent, and it's my favorite form of empowerment.
Oh my gosh, it gives me chills. This is so fun. Thank you so much. It's like such a unique answer. I love it. I've been compiling these answers, by the way. My podcast manager has all of them in a little folder. I don't know exactly what I'm doing with them, but yours is going to be there. And I love it. So thank you so much for sharing. This is so fun. Well, tell us, Janine, how we can find you. Where do you hang out the most? We'll make sure and put all the links in the show notes as well.
Okay, there's really only one link that you need, and that's the8gates.com. That's my mothership corporation that has a bunch of little corporations underneath it, because you know me, you can't just have one. Companies are like potato chips for me. So anyway, you go to the8gates.com, and on there you'll see Open Friday Coffee, and we'll give you the direct link. And that's how you can come on. Every Friday, I'm on Zoom in a specific room for an hour. Come when you can. Leave when you have to. It's not a formal event. You come on, chat with me, and I will guide you to either the program, the product, the service, or a different person who can help you with your particular situation.
Amazing. That's wonderful. Thank you so much for the awesome work you're doing out there, helping people. You're awesome. Thank you so much, Janine.
Oh, thank you, Marta. Keep being you and empower those women for me, will you?
I will.
Thanks so much for tuning in today. I hope this episode empowered you. And if you enjoyed the show, please join the Empowered Woman community on Facebook and share with friends, or leave a review on iTunes so more people can discover this empowering message. Until next time, bye.